Hanley calmly settled into the stone chamber, feeling the flow of time as his spiritual power gradually replenished. The journey to the war camp had been long, and the exertion of flight and magical defense had drained him, but now he could feel his energy returning at an unusually fast rate. Ever since cultivating the Azure Essence sword arts to its 10th layer, his spiritual recovery had accelerated significantly, a welcome improvement. A faint smile formed on his lips as he reached for a wooden box radiating black light. Several restriction talismans shimmered across its surface, glowing with azure energy. With a single sweep of his hand, the talismans lifted from the box and vanished into his sleeve. He tapped the box, and its lid opened smoothly. Inside lay a small palm-sized talisman, densely covered with inscriptions, along with the faint image of a crimson flood dragon swirling across its surface. Hanley beckoned the talisman into his palm. The past few days had been arduous. He had failed 3 times before finally refining it. Though he could not yet gauge its full power, he knew it was weaker than the ancient spirit subjugation talismans of legend. After all, the flood dragon soul had been severely weakened by his previous attempts. Only in the crucible of battle would its true strength reveal itself. His fingers traced the inscriptions, and his expression shifted as he contemplated their meaning and potential. Deep in thought, he did not notice the faraway plotting taking place, several tens of kilometers, away in the Mulan encampment. In an underground chamber, 7 mysterious figures gathered. 2 of them, cloaked in black robes, concealed their identities, while the remaining 5 were recognizable to Hanley. A green-robed woman surnamed Li, wielder of the ancient lantern whom he had faced at the Yellow Dragon Mountains, and the middle-aged, scholarly man who had relentlessly pursued him for days, the divine sage Zhong. The other 3 were enigmatic. A shriveled, dark-skinned old man, a short man under 4 meters tall, and a large, embroidered-robed figure with an imposing presence. "Lei, how are the spirit oil preparations? The holy bird can only manifest while the sacred lantern burns." "There can be no mistakes," the shriveled old man said, his sharp eyes betraying concern despite the wrinkles on his face. The green-robed woman bowed slightly. "Divine Sage Zhu, rest assured. My clan has treated this battle as a matter of life or death. We have brought forth all the spirit oil produced over the last 1,000 years. It should suffice to summon the holy bird for the battle." Zhu nodded, then turned to the scholarly man. "Brother Zhong, how are the grand spirit technique formations? Our magic tools are inferior to the Heavenly South cultivators. We must rely on formations to suppress them." "Not a problem," Zhong replied calmly. "Hundreds of years of research weren't in vain. I've organized several new grand formations. If the enemy expects the formations we used in the past, they will be unprepared." The old man turned to the short man. "Brother B, when melee begins, have the high-grade spell warriors summon the void spirit beasts. Let them absorb attacks and drain the cultivators. Magic power!" Then he addressed the black-robed man. "Sectmaster Fang, your huge beast must cooperate fully." The black-robed man's voice was cold but steady. "Before the battle starts, the beasts will be provided. I trust you will honor our agreement." The shriveled old man sneered lightly. "Back out? We have no reason to offend your sect before the war. The Jin Empire will repay your favors once the Heavenly South falls. The lives of mortals in the Yan clan mean nothing to us." The black-robed man's eyes flickered with green light, a cold, sinister qi rising from his body. "Were it not for the righteous Tao destroying our sect's protective treasures, we wouldn't need countless living souls to restore it. Gathering souls during this battle will attract attention, but delay is not an option." A black-robed woman added hoarsely. "All souls of cultivators who fall belong to our sect. Surely Divine Sage Zhu has no objections?" The old man's face darkened slightly. "We are unconcerned with previous collections. But can you differentiate between cultivators and spell warriors? The agreement must hold. We will compensate you otherwise." "Impossible," the black-robed man said coldly. "There is no distinction. Tens of thousands will die, and differentiating them is impractical. Do the 3 divine sages wish to break our accord?" Zhong and B bristled internally, their auras glowing faintly as they stared at the black-robed man. The large embroidered-robed man and Lu's eyes glinted with displeasure. They had long resented the collection of spell warrior souls, and conflict with these Devil Dao cultivators seemed inevitable. Zhu intervened, face solemn. Enough! Sectmaster Fang is our invited guest. Show respect. The black-robed woman signaled Fang, and his green glow receded, his aura softening. The tension in the room eased, and the spell warriors restrained their power, recognizing the necessity of unity before the battle. Zhu gritted his teeth. Fine. You may gather the souls, but do so secretly after the battle. No one must witness it, or we cannot guarantee the consequences. Fang nodded in agreement. Very well. Our sect accepts. The Mulan spell warriors were dissatisfied, but had no choice. The large embroidered-robed man asked, Are your preparations truly feasible? The Heavenly South has devilish cultivators too. Will they not see through this? Fang sneered. Devilish cultivators? Superficial techniques at best. They do not know true devil Dao from antiquity. Bai smirked. Yet an elder of your sect was killed instantly by a Heavenly South cultivator. Are you not underestimating them? Fang only snorted, silent. The black-robed woman seized the moment. This cultivator with golden lightning could benefit the sifting yin sect. Can the three divine sages hand him over? The shriveled old man looked puzzled. Hand him over? Is this a minor request you refuse? The woman growled, her hoarse voice sharp. The old man smiled faintly. If he were a mere early nascent soul cultivator, yes. But the magic treasure with the golden lightning bamboo changes everything. The black-robed man's eyes hardened. If you know the divine devilbane lightning, you must know our devilish sects cannot allow it to fall into other hands. State your conditions. Zhu's wrinkled face formed a sly smile. Simple. During the battle, have your copper-armored corpses assist us. We do not know the cultivator's responses despite our preparations, so extra caution is necessary. After a pause, Fang replied, I did not expect you to know our secrets. The copper-armored corpses are expendable, but losing too many is costly. We will bring back this cultivator alive under these terms. The shriveled old man's expression darkened as he heard the black-robed man's amended request. Capture him alive? Is Brother Fang joking? You should know that fellow Taoist Zhong has already fought him. Not only is he capable of lightning movement, but he also possesses a blood movement technique unlike any we've seen. Even with our combined abilities, restraining him is impossible. If the goal is to kill him and seize his golden lightning bamboo magic treasure, that is far more feasible. The black-robed man quickly nodded in agreement. Since capturing him is too difficult, then it is acceptable to kill him. The shriveled old man exchanged a brief glance with the other spell warriors, coordinating silently through voice transmission before agreeing. Once resolved, they began discussing the detailed strategies for the coming battle. Meanwhile, in a large hall within the Heavenly South war camp, Master Sunreach, Wei Wuya, Long Han, and a few other prominent figures convened. Alongside them were a striking red-clothed woman and a bald, eagle-eyed old man, both exuding sharp intelligence and authority. The old man's eyes were narrowed, and a jade ring engraved with faint talismanic symbols glinted on his hand, hinting at its rarity and power. Fellow Taoist Heavenvenge, Master Sunreach began, smiling lightly. This war will rely on all of us. We intend to draw the main forces of the Mulan spell warriors to the border. Meanwhile, you and your men will infiltrate, soaring Heaven City and seize all resources from the city's depot. Even if the Mulan attempt to use these supplies before the battle, drawing out the conflict will leave them unable to sustain themselves, without spirit stones or other materials. The eagle-eyed old man's voice was harsh and clipped. So long as you can lure the Mulan divine sages to the border, infiltration should be easy. But why would the Mulan leave their resources unprotected in the city? It seems suspicious, perhaps a trap. Devil Concord, calm and composed, replied, Rest assured, our spies report that although the Mulan occupy Fengyuan and Ye, they have no other supply lines. Before evacuating, we destroyed spirit stone mines and other resources in those areas. While the Mulan mortals have tried to rebuild, their efforts are insufficient. They are currently using a joint reserve of spirit stones pooled from their tribes, secured in a hidden storehouse under a formidable grand restriction, guarded by several sages. These resources are as safe as possible, and we have enough time to retrieve them before the Mulan can react. Wei Wuya smiled coldly. They did not anticipate that we planted spies among their ranks, just as they did with ours. One of the sages guarding the storehouse is one of our own. When the time comes, the formation will be deactivated. If you act with discretion, fellow Taoist Heavenvenge, they will be caught completely unprepared. Long Han interjected, smiling. And what reward will follow for such an undertaking? Master Sunreach explained, once the war concludes, our 4 superpowers will grant you a section of land in the state of Shu. You may establish your own sect there without interference, becoming a recognized sect founder. Eccentric Heavenvenge appeared satisfied. Very well. I shall prepare tonight and begin the infiltration tomorrow. He departed without further discussion. A demonic light flared in its eyes, and it let out a low, thunderous growl. He has a good chance of success. He and his group of wandering eccentrics each possess formidable abilities. If the Mulan are unprepared, failure is unlikely. Long Han nodded. Indeed. Tying down the Mulan divine sages is key. I did not expect this old eccentric to want to found a sect at his age, or gather so many wandering cultivators into a faction. It is surprising. Master Sunreach chuckled lightly. Not surprising at all. Eccentric Heavenvenge has remained in mid-nascent soul for at least 3 centuries. Unable to break through, he has accepted his limits and redirected his efforts. Founding a sect brings him honor, and he uses this opportunity to negotiate terms with us. His appearance is timely reinforcement. Enough talk. Regardless of Heavenvenge's subterfuge, we cannot afford missteps at the start of battle. Victory is crucial. Brother Wei, can the 9 nations Union counter the Mulan's Grand Spirit technique formations? This is their standard melee tactic. Wei Wuya replied confidently. Over the years, we have studied them extensively. Were it not for technique limitations, our Union could employ formations of our own. There is no need for concern, fellow Taoist Sunreach. Satisfied, Master Sunreach shifted his attention. Devil Conquered spoke again. Our 6 Devil Dao sects are ready. The controlling spirit sect's guarding beasts are prepared. The Harmonious Bond sect will release the dual yin-yang devils, and the Ghost Spirit sect's Myriad Souls formation is deployed. The other sects also have their arrangements. Fellow Taoist Sunreach, has your Righteous Tao Alliance prepared their own killing maneuvers? Sunreach nodded curtly. Our alliance has begun preparations. Each sect has opened the halls of their founding ancestors and retrieved ancient treasures of great power. You will not be disappointed. Long Han added with a trace of regret. Our Heavenly Tao Union is less rigorous. Preparations are underway, but I do not know specifics. The Phoenix Cry sect has retrieved several ancient jade talismans, which will display considerable power, though they will exhaust the sect after the battle. The red-clothed woman finally spoke. So what if the black-robed men are from the Jin Empire? Their secrecy indicates a single sect or branch. We treat them as spell warriors and feign ignorance. Master Sunreach agreed. Her reasoning is sound. Even if they support the Mulan, we will not yield the heavenly south. We must account for superior magic, treasures, and possible interference in the wagered battles. Long Han warned. The Jin Empire has countless secret techniques, many nearly impossible to counter. Sunreach waved his hand. It matters little. Remember our great truth sect's restriction-breaking bead? Long Han's eyes widened. The restriction-breaking bead? The single-use magic tool for dissolving restrictions, but the barriers in the wagered battles can resist. Nascent Soul strikes, can this tool actually dissolve them? Master Sunreach calmly explained. If it were those ordinary restriction-breaking beads, they would indeed have no effect on a high-grade restriction. Brother Long, you may not know this, but the ones circulating in the world are merely incomplete versions. True restriction, breaking beads, require many rare materials and are extremely difficult to refine, but their power against advanced restrictions is exceptional. My sect rarely uses them, so we only have a few left. Still, for those who will be participating in the wagered battles, my sect has managed to gather 10 genuine restriction-breaking beads. As long as they carry one, they will be able to break the barrier and escape, provided they aren't struck down first. There's no need to worry about what comes after. Devil Concord gave a low chuckle. I did wonder why Master Sunreach was so composed about tomorrow's wagered battles. So that's the hidden card. With those beads, we need not fear any unexpected traps. But to ensure safety, my Heaven Fiend sect has also prepared a special pill, the Death Return Pill. It stimulates one's true essence, instantly replenishing most of their magic power and slightly boosting cultivation. The downside is that when its effect fades, it severely weakens the user's vitality. I'll distribute one pill to each of the chosen cultivators. If they reach the brink of danger, this will give them a fighting chance. Longhand nodded approvingly. Excellent. With both these contingencies in place, I feel much more at ease about the wagered battles. Then, with a shift in tone, he added, since these black-robed men use Devil Dao techniques, wouldn't it be best to have the Righteous Dao cultivators deal with them? The Great Truth sect and several others possess arts designed specifically to restrain devilish techniques. They would be well suited for this task. Master Sunreach replied without hesitation. Of course, those devil cultivators will be handled by the Righteous Dao Alliance. Meanwhile, your efforts will focus on confronting the Mulan divine sages. That's only natural, Longhan said with satisfaction. The others, clearly relieved that Sunreach would handle the Jin Empire devil cultivators, began discussing the matter in greater detail. Their talks continued until sunset, and once all plans were finalized, everyone dispersed to make final preparations for the decisive battle. At dawn the next day, the patrolling cultivators caught sight of blinding lights and heard deep rumbles from the distant Mulan camp. Moments later, countless squadrons of spell warriors flew into the air on their magic tools, forming ranks that darkened the sky as they advanced toward the heavenly South Army. The alarm was immediately raised. Bell towers across the camp rang in succession, and a flood of spiritual light shot into the sky as countless cultivators rose to meet the threat. In the distance, the heavens shimmered with countless hues, flashes of blue, gold, red, and white, until it looked like two vast celestial tides about to collide. Both armies halted about 5 kilometers apart, facing one another in tense silence. Neither side retreated, each waiting for the other to make the first move. For the cultivators of the heavenly South, this was their homeland. Their fighting spirit blazed fiercely, unwilling to allow the Mulan to defile their soil. But despite the killing intent that filled the air, neither side acted rashly. Han Li stood in the sky above his division of over 1,000 cultivators, quietly observing the Mulan army. As far as his eyes could see, the heavens were filled with lights, each representing hundreds of spell warriors. The lines stretched for kilometers, a glittering wall of power. It was clear that both sides had committed their main forces. Though he couldn't count precisely, there were at least 70,000 cultivators present, and among them, countless high-grade experts who rarely showed themselves in ordinary times. Yet the difference between the two armies was striking. The Mulan spell warriors were dressed in a variety of tribal garbs, their lower ranks equipped mostly with basic magic tools, bowls, beads, and small flags. Weapons like swords and blades were scarce. By contrast, the Heavenly South cultivators wielded a vast array of brilliant, intricately forged magic tools, most of them weapons that radiated strong spiritual light. Their craftsmanship and quality clearly surpassed that of the Mulan. However, while the Heavenly South cultivators were better armed, the Mulan army was far more disciplined. Their formations were tight and perfectly coordinated. They floated in the air with calm precision, silent and steady. The cultivators, on the other hand, were a picture of chaos. Their ranks were uneven, their discipline lax. Some whispered to each other, others drifted out of formation. The higher-ranked commanders shouted reprimands to restore order, their frustration evident. Han Li frowned slightly. He wasn't surprised. It was unrealistic to expect an army, hastily assembled over a few months, to display perfect coordination. The Mulan, on the other hand, had spent generations in constant warfare. They were used to large-scale formations and well-trained cooperation. Still, he knew this difference wouldn't decide the battle. Unlike mortal soldiers, cultivators fought with spiritual power. Treasures and formations. Discipline was important, but not decisive. Han Li's gaze moved over the Mulan ranks again, and this time, what drew his attention were the massive beasts lying among their forces. Each one was the size of a small mountain, their thick hides glinting faintly with runes. He had seen such creatures before, ferocious, nearly indestructible, and many 9 nations. Union cultivators nearby regarded them with visible unease. He tilted his head up. The skies were clear and cloudless, an ominous calm before the storm. Looking down at the disorganized army below, Han Li sighed quietly. Then he opened his hand and looked at 2 items resting on his palm, a small black bead, and an almond-sized pill glowing faintly with multicolored light. These were the treasures Master Sunreach had distributed the previous day, the true restriction-breaking bead and the Heaven Fiend sect's death return. Pill. Every cultivator chosen for the wagered battles had been given one of each. Hanley had been surprised when he received them. It was clear that the three great cultivators were determined to win, even if it meant depleting their sect's secret reserves. But it wasn't just them. Everyone had brought out their hidden trump cards. Hanley's eyes drifted toward a nearby formation, where over 1,000 cultivators stood. Among them were 16 in red and green robes, carrying two enormous coffins, one black, one white, covered in dozens of talismans. Hanley immediately recognized them as disciples of the Harmonious Bond sect, a top Devil Dao sect. His curiosity flared, but the heavy restrictions on the coffins prevented his spiritual sense from probing inside. Elsewhere, he spotted another strange sight. A righteous Dao sect carrying a massive copper platform nearly 20 meters tall, upon which sat a gleaming golden gong etched with talismanic patterns. A bare-chested man sat cross-legged beside it, motionless, waiting for battle. Farther away, another division transported huge black stone statues shaped like ancient beasts, each almost 10 meters tall, pulled by flying carriages. Every formation carried some mysterious device or treasure into battle. Seeing all this, Hanley felt a little more assured. The major sects had clearly taken this war seriously, bringing out their sect-protecting artifacts and trump cards. Victory now seemed within reach, though he knew the Mulan must also have hidden weapons of their own. Soon, both armies were fully assembled. Silence fell across the land. Then, from the Mulan side, three figures rose into the air. The three divine sages. A shriveled old man, a short man, and a scholarly-looking one. From the heavenly south side, three streaks of light soared up to meet them. Master Sunreach, Wei Wuya, and Devil Conquered. The six stopped tens of kilometers apart, facing each other across the battlefield. The scholarly Mulan sage, surnamed Zhong, spoke coldly. There is still time to avoid needless bloodshed. If the heavenly south agrees to surrender half its land to the Mulan tribes, we will cease hostilities and coexist peacefully. Otherwise, your cultivation world will suffer irreparable losses, no matter who wins. Wei Wuya lifted his chin and sneered. Ridiculous. Even if we lose much, if the Mulan are defeated, your tribes will be wiped out entirely. It's you who should reconsider before it's too late. The shriveled old man's voice carried no warmth as he declared. There's no more to discuss. The path forward is clear, life or death. Before the true battle begins, we will conduct the wagered battles as agreed. Send out your fighters and set up the restrictions. No matter the outcome, the war begins the moment they end. He already understood there was no chance the three great cultivators would surrender, willingly. Devil Conquered's smile was sharp and cold. Naturally, we'll accept your wagered battles. But where are the captives you promised to show us? I see no one. Or were your words meant to deceive? The old man's eyes flickered, and after a brief silence, he sent a sound transmission to someone behind him. Moments later, the Mulan army shifted, parting ranks to reveal over 1,000 unarmed cultivators standing among them. They were dragged forward, faces pale and expressions mixed, some frightened, others defiant. A few glared at their captors with seething anger. From the heavenly South Army, angry cries erupted as some recognized their own sect members among the prisoners. Master Sunreach and the others exchanged glances, their expressions hardening. The short Mulan divine sage snapped impatiently. You've seen them. That should satisfy your concerns. Now stop wasting time and begin the wagered battles. Wei Wuya's gaze turned sharp. Why the hurry? Or is there some hidden plan behind your eagerness? The short man's expression darkened. If you refuse, we'll hang these cultivators from our banners before the main battle starts. How would that look to your men? A cold light flashed in Wei Wuya's eyes. Are you threatening us? The shriveled old man sneered. A threat, hardly. But if you refuse the wagered battles, these captives are of no further use to us. Hanging them would raise our troops' morale. Master Sunreach's brows furrowed. If we agree, you will release the captives first. The short man barked a laugh. Release them? Do you take us for fools? Wei Wuya remained calm. And what assurance do we have that you'll keep your word once we agree?" Before the short man could respond, the old one interrupted sharply, his eyes glinting dangerously. "Enough! We'll release half of the captives before the wagered battles begin. The rest after they end, take it or leave it. Refuse, and we start the war immediately." Master Sunreach quietly sent a voice transmission to his allies. "Accept. That's the best we'll get. If this collapses, we'll have no chance to save the rest." The others agreed. Sunreach looked up and said decisively, "Fine, release half, and we'll prepare the formations." The 6 leaders returned to their camps to make arrangements. Hidden among a division of Heavenly South cultivators, Hanley had already shifted positions. He preferred to stay unnoticed before the fighting began, especially by high-level enemies. Using his immense spiritual sense, he eavesdropped on the nascent soul cultivators' negotiations. As the Mulan released half the captives, Hanley watched them soar joyfully toward the Heavenly South lines. But Master Sunreach had expected this. Before they could return fully, a group of hundreds intercepted them mid-air, carefully examining each one for signs of deceit or hidden tricks. Only after confirming their safety were they allowed to rejoin the ranks. From the Mulan side, the short divine sage snorted. "Cautious, aren't they? Good thing we didn't use those heart-drain pills or we'd be in trouble now." The scholarly man, Zhong, nodded. "Exactly. The 3 great cultivators of the Heavenly South aren't easily fooled. Petty schemes won't work. If we want victory, we must strike at their core. Tricks will only expose our weakness." The old man remained silent, lightly stroking his sparse beard as his cold eyes swept over the opposing army. From his vantage point, Hanley saw groups of cultivators and spell warriors flying toward the center between the 2 armies. They moved in teams of 10, laying down spell formations. These were master formation experts from both sides. With their skill, no deception could go unnoticed. Despite the complexity of the task, their coordination was impeccable. Using prepared flags, formation plates, and rare materials, they completed 10 glowing white formations in barely 15 minutes. When activated, each created a barrier of shimmering light spanning hundreds of meters. After double-checking for flaws, the formation masters withdrew, replaced by core formation. Cultivators, 1 from each side, to guard every barrier and ensure fairness. Hanley noticed that one of the guards was Cultivator Song from the Drifting Cloud sect, stationed at the 2nd formation. He wasn't surprised. Since he was among the chosen fighters, it was only proper that a fellow sect member guard his barrier. Having someone from another sect could have been risky if hesitation or rivalry arose during the fight. He had personally suggested Song for this duty, someone he knew and could trust. With the barriers ready, it was time for the combatants to appear. 10 figures in black robes rose from the Mulan side, their presence radiating oppressive, devilish chi that twisted the air around them. Hanley's eyes narrowed. Devil cultivators. Without hesitation, he joined 9 other nascent soul eccentrics: Taoist Shattered Soul, Devil Cloud Part, the woman surnamed Bai, and several unfamiliar faces. Together they flew toward the center, stopping before the glowing barriers. Hanley looked at the devil cultivator across from him. Something's wrong, he thought. Why is their devilish chi so chaotic? Did they take a pill like the death return pill? His opponent seemed ordinary, but his eyes gleamed with eerie green light. Hanley instantly gauged his strength. At the peak of early nascent soul, only a step from mid-stage. The other black-robed cultivators were nearly identical in cultivation and aura. Strange, not one of them is mid-nascent soul. There's a hidden scheme here. Hanley's vigilance sharpened. No matter. Against devil cultivators, my divine devilbane lightning will erase them instantly. His killing intent surged. The black-robed man reached into his robe and produced a storage pouch. Without a word, he tossed it to Hanley. Hanley smiled faintly and did the same, sending over his own pouch filled with rare materials, the wager for their duel. The items from the Mulan side were even more valuable than expected. Hanley inspected them briefly, finding nothing amiss, then stored the pouch away. Below them, Cultivator Song and the spell warrior guarding the formation began their incantations. Runes of light poured into the air as the barriers activated. In an instant, Hanley and the black-robed cultivator vanished into a sphere of milky white light, sealed away from the outside world. All around them, the other duels activated in unison, 10 glowing barriers flickering across the battlefield. Tens of thousands of cultivators held their breath, watching the vague shadows move inside the barriers. Inside his sphere, Han Li faced his opponent silently. Blue light flickered faintly across his body, his flying swords trembling with anticipation. Deep within his dantian, a golden orb of lightning pulsed, his greatest weapon against the Devil Dao. Han Li gave a faint smile, raised his hand, and unleashed his first earth-shattering strike. As the light barrier sealed them in, the black-robed cultivator pressed his palms together and began chanting an ancient, eerie incantation. A surge of sinister, devilish chi erupted from his body, twisting into several thick, black tentacles that writhed like living things. Han Li's eyes sharpened. From within his sleeve came a faint rumble of thunder and a flicker of golden light, the sign of his divine Devilbane lightning. He'd slain a devil cultivator of equal strength before. If he struck the instant his opponent moved, this battle would be over in a heartbeat. But before Han Li could act, the black-robed man's eyes suddenly turned scarlet. A guttural, bestial roar escaped his throat, shaking the barrier around them. In the same instant, his devilish chi vanished entirely, not dissipated, but transformed into something unstable and terrifying. Han Li's face darkened. The man's body ballooned to twice its size, his veins bulging, then abruptly shrank into a dwarf barely 3 feet tall. Without warning, he darted backward toward the barrier at astonishing speed. A sense of foreboding surged through Han Li's chest. He raised his hand and released 2 powerful bolts of golden lightning that interwove mid-air, forming a vast net of crackling light. At the same time, he summoned a small blue shield that grew to human height, hovering protectively before him. His other hand flicked toward his waist, summoning the restriction, breaking bead into his grasp, a last resort should he need to shatter the barrier and escape. Just as he braced for impact, the net of lightning enveloped the black-robed man. A shrill scream tore through the air. Then the man's body burst apart in a violent explosion of flesh and blood. Han Li froze, stunned. The explosion had no force, no spiritual power at all, only blood and gore scattered across the walls of the barrier. A self-detonation? He thought, bewildered. But something felt wrong. Then he noticed it. The shredded flesh didn't fall. It clung to the barrier like glue, writhing faintly. Han Li's expression turned grim. Before he could react, the pieces began to melt into a thick, crimson mist that spread rapidly across the barrier's surface. In seconds, the entire enclosure was painted red, and a heavy stench of blood filled the air. Realizing the danger, Han Li hurled the restriction-breaking bead at the wall. It struck with a deafening boom, releasing a pulse of black light. The barrier trembled, flickering wildly. Han Li's eyes lit with hope. He unleashed a barrage of azure swordlight toward the weakened spot. But before they struck, a flash of red mist surged forth and sealed the damage completely. In an instant, the entire barrier had transformed. The once white glow was now deep crimson, its surface pulsing like veins filled with blood. Droplets formed and slid down, releasing a nauseating metallic scent that filled Han Li's lungs. Without hesitation, he spat out a thick bolt of golden lightning. The thunderous blast tore through the mist, scattering it momentarily. But before his eyes, it reformed whole and untouched. Han Li's heart sank. He lowered his arm, canceling his next spell. The situation had gone from dangerous to dire. At that same moment, the other 9 wagered battlefields underwent identical transformations. Every black-robed cultivator had self-destructed, staining their respective barriers in blood and trapping their opponents within. Outside, the 10 core formation cultivators responsible for maintaining the formations turned pale. Realizing something was terribly wrong, they quickly formed hand seals to halt the formations. But before they could, the Mulan spell warriors across from them abruptly retreated toward their army without a word. The Heavenly South cultivators' unease deepened. They managed to stop their formations, but the barriers didn't vanish. Instead, the red mist condensed even further, solidifying into a thick, blood-like shell that gleamed under the sunlight. It looked disturbingly like the coagulated blood of countless beings. High above, Master Sunreach and the other 2 great cultivators saw what had happened. Their expressions turned grim as they descended in streaks of light. Master Sunreach landed beside the nearest blood barrier and studied it carefully. His face darkened. "Fall back," he ordered the core formation cultivators. "This is beyond your ability to handle." The cultivators obeyed at once, retreating to safety. Before she left, Cultivator Song cast a worried glance toward Han Li's blood barrier, her lips tightening in concern. Across the field, the Mulan leaders were visibly pleased. The shriveled old man turned to a figure dressed in black robes standing behind him. "Sect Master Fang, your plan worked flawlessly. I trust this blood-catching barrier will hold them as promised. If these 10 nascent soul cultivators remain trapped for even half a day, the Heavenly South's strength will be crippled. We'll be able to crush them completely before they break free." Sect Master Fang's lips curled into a cold smile. "You have nothing to fear. This blood-catching barrier is one of my sect's 6 grand forbidden arts. Each blood corpse used was cultivated for over a century and fed. Devil spirit pills before the battle. I personally controlled them with threads of my spiritual sense to conceal their true natures. Even if those old monsters try to break the barrier, they won't succeed. Quickly, not without exhausting. Tremendous amounts of spiritual power. Tell me, will you grant them that time?" As if to confirm his words, Master Sunreach raised his sword and unleashed a blinding arc of sword, key at the barrier. It struck with a violent crash, shaking the crimson shell, but moments later, it stabilized as if nothing had happened. Master Sunreach frowned deeply. Wei Wuya and Devil Conquered, watching nearby, didn't bother to attack. Their seasoned eyes could already tell the truth. The barrier was meant for containment, not destruction. It wouldn't harm those inside, but escaping from it was another matter entirely. The three exchanged grim looks. They had believed the wagered battles would weaken the Mulan's power. Instead, it had been a trap to seal away 10 of their strongest cultivators. The realization left them silent and bitter. Wei Wuya exhaled heavily. "Brother Yi, do you recognize this art? Is it of your 6 Devil Dao sects?" Those men self-detonated to cast it. "I've never seen such a thing." Devil Conquered shook his head. "No, we have nothing like it. This technique is entirely foreign to me. It seems the cultivators from the Jin Empire have far more secrets than we imagined." Before they could speak further, the deep rumble of drums echoed across the battlefield. The Mulan army had begun to move. Divisions of spell warriors rose into the air, while those on the ground chanted in unison, forming intricate battle arrays. The 3 great cultivators stood unmoved, their armies responding with equal precision as brilliant lights shimmered across their ranks. Master Sunreach said quietly, "This was a heavy loss, but at least those trapped are still alive. If they can endure, they may yet escape. We still hold the advantage in numbers. Even 10 fewer won't decide the outcome." Wei Wuya and Devil Concord knew he was only trying to maintain morale. Their fury simmered, but there was no time for regret. Devil Concord's gaze hardened. "We'll leave the army to follow its formation. Our task is to deal with the Mulan Divine Sages directly." His aura flared, sharp and aggressive. Raising his voice, he shouted, "I've long heard of the Mulan Divine Sages' unmatched spirit techniques. Come, let us see if your reputation is deserved." His words carried with them a secret technique that amplified his voice across the sky. The very air trembled, ripples spreading for miles. The chanting of both armies faltered, and several weaker spell warriors in mid-air lost their balance, plummeting to the ground in shock.